part of my work with the International Jewish Anti-Zionist Network. So I want to tell you about it, is how we respond to that, is that we organized a tour in Europe with Hajo Meyer, a Holocaust survivor and anti-Zionist activist, together with Haidar Eid from Gaza, who spoke on video link and spoke about the Holocaust and his experience as his moral lessons from that Jewish history, together with Haidar Eid. And in different places, we invited people from other communities that have suffered genocide to participate, including people from Rwanda and from the Roma community, and also involved in this discussion of current racism in Europe. And in the UK, we made that event on Holocaust Memorial Day in the British Parliament building. And so this does get a certain amount of attention. I don't have time to talk a lot more about that, but this is on our website. So we do these events to link this, essentially the modern history and the whole history of genocides against Native Americans, including the Atlantic slave trade, including the genocide of the Herero at the end of the 19th century, including apartheid, including all the colonial atrocities in a long history. Last year in Geneva, that was one of the key examples in how the discourse of anti-Semitism works far beyond the question of Palestine. It links, in fact, for us, the question of Palestine to a global issue of racism. The Durban conference came out from a very long process that involves developing mechanisms for dealing with racism in a whole lot of different places. And the major impetus for this process was, in fact, the issue of colonialism and the racism that came out of colonialism, and an analysis of racism based on colonialism, and the issue of the Atlantic slave trade and reparation for slavery. Of course, Palestine is an issue of colonialism, so it was discussed in this context. But it's important to remember that in Durban, this is what was said about Palestine. It's a very anodyne statement that follows American-US policy to the T. And despite this, Obama, when he decided to maybe participate, as he was asked by so many activists, maybe participate in the Durban review process, he essentially said that he demanded, of course, that there would be nothing new said about Palestine and Israel. He demanded that language would be dropped regarding the defamation of religion. He demanded language would be dropped about defining the Atlantic slave trade as a crime against humanity. And of course, any language drop about reparation. And finally, after he got all these things, he decided not to participate. And the reason he decided not to participate is that he didn't get the last demand, and the last demand was to completely reject the original Durban reparations. So the US participation in Durban, non-participation, the promise to participate, was a calculated effort to completely destroy the whole Durban process. That is, to set back the whole attempt to deal with the legacy of colonialism and the legacy of slavery in a political context that includes the demands for reparation. And despite that, it was completely represented in the media as an issue of anti-Semitism. That is, that the issue was that that the US could not participate because of anti-Semitism. And so what we see here, in fact, is that what they did is, in fact, they took over the whole conference. There was a major memorial for the Holocaust done on the same day, in which the speeches made the implication that what is happening in Durban is in fact a continuation of Nazism, and therefore that has to be countered by a counterforce, which came and used essentially hundreds of people to completely derail the proceedings. And in fact, the proceedings were derailed. It's true that they didn't completely succeed because the Durban Declaration was affirmed, but nothing in fact happened in Durban too. All we have is a complete standstill. And that was achieved by the language of anti-Semitism. So here we see, in fact, the language of anti-Semitism used not just to derail discussion of colonialism in Palestine, but in fact in the opposition between this discourse that is a symbolic discourse about racism, that talks only about Jews, in which Jews are the symbol of racism, of the victims of racism, and the actual process of attempting to deal with the dozens of different issues of actual racism. That's how it's been used. And of course, that's something that we should resist. I don't have time for more. I have a few more examples, but I'll stop here. Okay.